Welcome to this episode of Eureka, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion with Dr. Sharad Jain, Senior Scientist from National Institute of Hydrology, which is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Water Resources. Before we continue with this discussion, we will take a very quick look at his brief profile.
Dr. Sharad Kumar Jain is a well-known hydrologist who is presently a senior scientist in National Institute of Hydrology at Roorkee and also handling the additional charge as the Director General in National Water Development Agency at Delhi. Dr. Sharad Jain did his bachelor's in engineering from the University of Roorkee and the Masters of Technology from IIT Kanpur, and later on obtained his PhD from University of Roorkee. He had R&D and teaching experience of more than 35 years in the field of hydrology and water resources. Dr. Sharad Jain's research interest includes surface water hydrology, water resources planning and management, and application of advanced tools such as artificial neural networks, remote sensing, GIS, and decision support systems. He developed a software package for reservoir analysis and extensively contributed to work related with international and Indian standards, and also developed a web-based course on hydrologic measurement and analysis of data for NPTEL, which is an e-learning program of IITs. Dr. Sharad Kumar Jain has also received national and international recognitions and has authored many books.
Thank you for being with us. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. Let me start with one question. Some of the statistics show, if you look at the water availability per person per year, in US it's close to about 8,000 cubic meter per capita per year. In let's say Europe, it's about 5,000 cubic meter per capita per year. In India, when we got independent around 1951, we had something like 5,100 cubic meter per head. But today people say that it is about 1,000, and then the international norm is that at least we should have 1,700. Are we really in a major crisis?
Well, if you look at the data, at independence time our population was something like 33 crores. Today it is 133 crores. Now, by and large, on annual basis, the amount of water that is available in India is almost fixed. So, naturally, as the population increases, the per capita water will decrease. So, now the challenge is that our population is increasing, but the water is remaining almost same. And we have to feed to the increasing population. Our people cannot remain malnutritioned. We have to have large food production. It has to be significantly increased. So yes, we are in a tight situation.
So are we in a situation like, say for example, you had some ancestral property but you don't have any job, so there is no income, so you are starting to eat up whatever that your ancestors have saved. In the same way, are we eating up water that have been stored for years together underground, and then are we depleting it? Is it the situation that we are leading to?
Yeah, in some case you can say that we are in that situation. We are depleting our water resources, because the estimates show that about 15% of our food production today is based on groundwater which is being mined.
15%? Yeah. It's a really very significant.
It's a significant number, and that's why Government of India has launched many programs. One of the program is more crop per drop. That means the efficiency of our food production needs to be increased. With the same amount of water, we need to grow more food.
But one doubt many people will have, okay, today we can talk about that we have, let's say, motor and pump and things like that to draw water. But in ancient time also we had wells, no? So that should have been contributing to agriculture. Is the shift from, let's say, using methodologies like wells to modern means of extracting water, has it significantly changed the issue?
Yeah, it has changed because with the manual means you can only draw so much of water. But if you have mechanical means or electrical means, then the amount of water that you can draw largely depends upon the capacity to draw and the capacity of the aquifer to deliver water. So that is the main reason our water requirement or withdrawals are increasing. But this withdrawal is increasing because we are now producing more food. Although the efficiency remains to be a critical thing, we need to improve that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you said something very interesting, like more crop per drop. I mean, many people are complaining that the traditional means of agriculture that we have been pursuing in this country for many, many generations is very highly water resource intensive. It's not just only after the Green Revolution, even before, we have been using quite a lot of water for producing certain amount of, let's say, food grain or food material. What kind of changes you think are required?
Well, I will not fully agree with you because the amount of water that is being consumed varies from location to location. If you look our people in say states like Rajasthan, where our water availability is less, they are using water very efficiently. In deep south also there are many places where water is being used very efficiently. But yes, there is a wastage of water in some part. And because of this reason now the government is placing a lot of emphasis on micro irrigation or precise irrigation using techniques such as drip or sprinkler, which gives just enough amount of water and it gives the water to the plant so that wastage can be reduced. But compared to some other countries, for example Israel or say Netherlands, there is immense possibility and experience in those countries show that with this amount of water we can grow much more food than
So suppose if one compares, let's say Israel or Netherlands or some of those countries which are efficiency in using water and us, how do you place us? We are 20%, 30%, 40%?
even much less, but again it is not uniform across the
Yeah,
nation.
but grosso modo across the country.
For example, I was reading somewhere and one Israel scientist says that the amount of apple that you produce, we can grow say about 8 to 10 times more apple with the same land and same water.
Same land and same water, 8 times apple, if we are using a much more precise water conservation methods. Very, very interesting, very interesting. Let me come to the third issue which people talk about is a very important issue in India is our poor recycling of water. That perhaps we use it, but it could have had many reuse possibility, but we hardly pay attention to it because it's freely available. What do you think about it?
Yeah, you are right that in our country recycle or reuse of water is very less, although these two terms are not synonymous. But for example, they say that in Frankfurt, one drop of water is recycled 8 times before it reaches sea. And in our country, recycle is much less. So yes, this is one very effective technique to increase the sort of availability of water. Because if you recycle the water, then same water can be used for subsequent applications, and we need to do that. There is a lot of possibility of recycling of water in domestic sector as well as in industrial sector. And you will be glad to know that now we have many industries which claim that they are zero water industries. So they are not using any extra water for their irrigation, for their product.
Very, very, very interesting. We are having a very, very interesting conversation, and I'm sure our audience are really interested about it. But we need to take a very short break. Don't go away. Keep watching Eureka. We are going to come back with very, very interesting questions. Do you know what is virtual water? We'll discuss about it after the break. Keep watching Eureka. Welcome back to Eureka, and we are having a very wonderful conversation, very exciting conversation with Dr. Sharad Jain, who is a senior scientist in National Institute of Hydrology, which is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Water Resources. We have been having a very interesting conversation before the break. Let me move to your area. You have been working in this institute or in this area of hydrology for more than 30 years. If I ask you a very simple question, can you list me 3 major work that you have done in this 30 years? What would you list them as?
Okay, it's difficult to say only 3 works, but let me reply like this. One of the field wherein I have been working is hydrological modeling.
Hydrological modeling. Okay. That is number one.
Number one.
Number two?
Number two, you can say again related to hydrological modeling, but application of emerging technology in data capturing and data analysis.
Very interesting. I mean, updating with the newer technologies so that, okay, that's number two. Number
And
three?
third thing is related to environment and biodiversity, because as you know, our resources are not only getting depleted, they are getting polluted. So if you have to supply water sustainably to the society and maintain the living standards and ecosystem in a healthy condition, we have to see that these systems remain in a healthy condition. And one of the topics on which I am working is known as environmental flow.
Environmental flow. Can you elaborate that?
Okay, see, in many cases when we use our water resources, for example, we use the resources of a river, we construct a dam to store water and divert for some useful purpose.
Okay.
In many situations, it is seen that the dam blocks the entire river flow, and downstream of the dam, the river is nearly dry. But we all know that rivers have many important functions, and there are living beings which depend on the river water. So if there is no flow in the river sort of becomes dead, because all these living things, for example fishes, etc., die. Other thing is that in India, water is also very closely related with our religious and social cultures. So unless water is available in the river of sufficient quality and quantity, many of these social functions cannot be performed. For example, we all know that when we have a small child, we do this mundan ceremony wherein his hairs are removed. That is all done besides a flowing water. So the concept of environmental flow is that no doubt society needs water for the river also needs certain amount of water for its own survival and to remain healthy. And this ideally is not a fixed quantity. This quantity varies from season to season depending upon the requirements of the aquatic ecosystem. So environmental flow concept says that we should have sufficient quality and quantity of water in the river so that the river ecosystem.
Very interesting concept. In fact, what comes to my mind is a very similar situation that existed in, for example, the area of fishing. People used to fish all around the year. But then people understood that suppose if you fish during, let's say, when the fishes are giving birth to the young ones, if you fish at that time, you are actually killing. So the next year fish output is low. So you actually have now a moratorium of fishing during those seasons. So you are looking at something like that so that we have a better management of rivers. Is that right?
And this concept says that actually the concept says that flow is the master variable which controls all the processes in the river, and we need flow with sufficient quantity as well as variability, because in river different flow regimes, as you rightly said, when the fishes lay their egg, that time we need low flow so that they don't get washed away. During certain time we need medium kind of flow so that the fishes can migrate. Similarly, at certain time we need high flow pulses so that the river is connected with the floodplain and the floodplain also gets energized. So this concept says that all these flow regimes should be available in the river post development.
So our old idea of putting a dam and then storing just water is inadequate. We need to have a very dynamic understanding of how we will operate even a dam.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. And see, these river ecosystems need to be maintained healthy for our own requirement. If they are not healthy, the society will also not remain.
Will suffer. Now let me shift to your earlier point. I mean modeling and also using new technology in modeling. What do you mean by modeling? I mean, can you explain in a very simple term for us?
Yeah, modeling, what we do here is known as mathematical modeling. In earlier times, engineers used to work on physical model, which means suppose you have to understand the operation of a dam, then you construct a physical model of the dam, do experiments on that physical model to understand how the dam in real life will behave. But water resources projects cannot be studied very largely in that fashion, because you just can't construct different models of the dam and see how they operate. So we work on mathematical models. These are basically computer software which try to simulate or duplicate the operation of the, say, dam or a river, and we give different inputs to this model, watch the output, analyze it to understand how this system will behave in different conditions, and then we take some decisions.
So in the new techniques, what are the new techniques that you are incorporating?
Okay, one of the very important and very exciting technique is what is known as remote sensing. Remote sensing is basically the technique to capture the data about an object without coming physically contact with that object. So, you know, we have satellites, and India incidentally is one of the leading countries in remote sensing technology, which has launched many of its own satellites. These satellites keep on observing the Earth's surface, and using the data of these satellites we can determine and we can do actually lots of work. For example, you will be amazed to know that these days satellites can even be used to measure the rainfall.
Okay.
They can be used to detect what are the features present on Earth's surface, and these features keep on changing. So as you plant a crop, for example, initially the ground is bare. Gradually the crop comes up, and you know, it can be monitored from remote sensing data. So based on remote sensing data, you can identify what kind of crops are being grown, what are likely to be the yields of the crop, whether the crops are being water stressed or not. So if the crop is water stressed, then we can supply additional water.
And most of this can be also monitored through using remote sensing.
It can be monitored through remote sensing. So the chief advantage is that in near real time you get all the data. You get the data of inaccessible locations just as easily as the data of your backyard. So you don't have to go to these faraway places.
Very, very interesting. We are having a very exciting conversation, very informative, something new, but very crucial for our life. We'll have to take a very short break. Keep watching Eureka. We'll continue this conversation. Welcome back to Eureka, and we are having a very interesting conversation with Dr. Sharad Jain, Senior Scientist of National Institute of Hydrology, an autonomous organization under Ministry of Water Resources. I was talking to our viewers that we'll talk about virtual water, a concept that is floating around in media. People are talking about it. Can you tell us in very simple terms what is this so-called virtual water?
Okay, very simply, you know, if you have water in a glass and you drink it, you can see that you are drinking one glass of water. But if you eat, for example, you eat, let's say, one chapati, or you eat one apple, you don't see water. But water was used to produce that chapati or for that apple, or in fact anything. For example, for making this shirt, some amount of water was used.
Even for producing a pen.
For producing a pen, for producing
anything.
this chair
this
or
chair,
anything.
everything.
So virtual water is the water which has been used to produce that product, but you no longer see it. And that's why.
So then people use two words, for example, virtual water and water footprint.
Yeah.
Are they same or are they different, or how does it?
They are slightly different because virtual water refers to a product. For example, virtual water content of this shirt is the amount of water which has been used to produce that shirt. While the concept of water footprint arises regionally or in terms of humans. So we can say that, for example, in India, the water footprint of an average Indian is this much, or water footprint of UP is so much, or water footprint of the entire nation is so much, and this refers to the amount of water that our country.
See, there is also a controversy on this issue of virtual water. See, if I take, let's say, apple, there is physically water sitting inside, you know, I mean certain percentage of that apple is water. So if I, let's say, export apple from Himachal to Tamil Nadu, in some sense I am also moving that amount of water from Himachal to Tamil Nadu. But suppose if I produce a pen and shift the pen, there is no physical water sitting inside. So the water has not moved geographically. So can we really compare both of them as same as some people are asking questions?
It is
so
not
how do you
same in the
respond?
sense, but you know, the very word virtual means that the water is not seen in that particular product, but it has been used to make that product, whether it is pan or apple. And you are right to that extent that if you move, for example, apple from Himachal to let's say deep south somewhere, then the amount of water that has been used to produce apple is being moved from Himachal to that location where water is being consumed. But please remember that at different places we will require different quantity of water to produce one apple. So the virtual water content of apple will differ
Will differ from place to
from place to place.
I want to ask another question. I mean, your institute, National Institute of Hydrology, is one of its kind in India. It's, I think, the premier institute in India working on this hydrological issue, and it's about 30 years and odd years that it has been in operation. What's the main, let's say, contribution of this institute to the nation building?
This institute has contributed to nation building in many different ways. One is, of course, we are doing hydrological analysis for different projects, water availability analysis, which means how much water is present at a location. We are advising many government organizations regarding how to operate their projects. So that is one. Second is we are also involved in capacity building and training. So every year we organize more than 100 short duration courses for field engineers where we expose them to the latest techniques, and that way their capacity is increased. We also take up consultancy and research projects, and these consultancy projects are the projects wherein real life problems are being solved by our scientists, and so that way the nation is being benefited.
Lastly, I want to ask you a very important question. I mean, we started with talking about the crisis that we are going through right now. The population of India is not going to stop growing tomorrow. It will take some more years for it to stabilize, hopefully. So, which means our crisis is going to become deeper. So, today, what do you think are the major challenges before us in terms of hydrology?
As I see, in water, two things are important. One is quantity, another is quality. In terms of quantity, because we are receiving monsoon climate, so the rainfall and other processes or other inputs change a lot from place to place. Like in Rajasthan, we get 100 millimeter of rainfall. In Cherrapunji, it is about 12 meter, and then we get different variations in other part. Then we also have temporal variation with respect to time. Most of our rainfalls, about 80% to 90%, is received only in 4 monsoon months. So accordingly, the river flow also varies. So one big challenge is how to overcome this variability in water availability within the country. All the people in the country deserve to receive good quality water and good quantity of water, no matter where they are living. Second thing is, if the quantity is too much, if lot of water is available, we have flooding problem. If less water is available, we have drought. So both these hydrological disasters occur, and we have to protect our people from these disasters. In terms of quality, you also must be observing that in many cases rivers are highly polluted. In some cases groundwater is also getting polluted. So we have to restore our rivers as well as our groundwater so that we have clean water in these places, which is beneficial for the whole nation.
Yeah, the last question. For meeting these challenges, what new path we should take from this institute? What kind of new areas that we need to explore? What kind of new institutions or setup we need to set up?
Yeah, you have very rightly mentioned that first thing is looking at the challenges that the country is facing. Our technical capability needs to be sufficiently enhanced, and this enhancement has to be in research institutes like NIH, but more importantly we need to enhance the capacity of our state government organizations, because as per the Constitution of India, states are custodians of water. So they need to have vibrant departments which manage this water so that lasting and sustainable solutions can be found. So, this is not something new. If you look at our ancient knowledge, Vedas, etc., there is a very popular or very important shloka which says, Shitjal Pavan Gagan Samira Panch Tattva Se Bana Sharira. And in my opinion, this was the message that our ancestors wanted to give, that look here, our own body is made up of these 5 elements, and we have to protect these elements, we have to use them sustainably for benefit of ourselves as well as for the benefit of civilization.
Very important. Very important point, and we had a very wonderful conversation with you. I mean, it was very informative, and then we got to know a very important challenge our country is facing and would face in the coming years, which is the challenges thrown by water availability, both quantity and quality. If you have to face this challenge, we need to enhance our capacity in hydrological sciences. Of course, our lifestyle changes are also required. Maybe we should not promote too much of water intensive crop, whether it being food crop or other crops, but rather move towards crops which require less water, and also our farming methods needs to change. Quite a lot of things that we need to look at to face this challenge, and we had a very, very wonderful conversation in this episode. Keep watching Eureka. We'll come up with another episode next week with another scientist.